I think you touch upon a lot of areas which are so important to this conversation, and the overall feeling of positivity which is there, covering so much of the progress that has happened in the past few years. You have talked about the the youth being part of this climate movement. And you also mentioned that what age is the right age to introduce climate change in the textbook. And you also spoke about the importance of traditional knowledge systems, the book Parampara. I think that is so important. We have so much of Parampara here in the Northeast, in the Eastern Himalayas, which should be part of the environmental education as well. But just been curious, what age, when we see Greta Thunbergs and Ridhima Pandays and Severn Kali Suzuki, 12 years, Felix Finkbeiner, 9 years old, making such global impacts from, such a young age, when do we actually start? We think we are, from an adult perspective, when are the kids ready for this education?
Um, shall I answer Karuna first?
No, please go
So
ahead.
yeah, so
Yeah.
my sense in this is that first of all, children today are exposed to so much, whether you like it or not. Whether it's a school is not the only source of information anymore. Uh, the videos, the mobiles, the various things which you see around you, and therefore to understand that becomes important. I have used what is called what I've called the Rangoli approach. Rangoli, what you do is you take with the white thing, you draw, the larger picture is drawn, and then you slowly put more and more color into it to make it come alive. But the larger picture is known. And if you take our Indian tradition, we tell the full story. And then there are so many side stories and insights and other things which keep on coming and adding meaning to it. So I think it's important that the child recognizes that there is something like climate change, that it is impacted by things. But slowly they will know why a tree is important. Why is it that I should switch off? Why is one electricity better than another? So I would introduce this concept pretty early on. And Karuna ji and her team have made some wonderful books, for instance, on this thing, which reaches out and makes the thing not so complex. But the thing is that you can actually start understanding it at a younger age and be part of the solution. It's important that the efficacy concept with children remains there and they can do something about it. So I would do it pretty young.
Karuna, ma'am, Earth Day Network was started by a youth as well. So your take on this?
Yeah, I think that youth have a very large role to play. And as I tell them, don't say, I'm doing it for you. You're doing it for yourselves. You are going to be the largest beneficiaries of it. I, at the age of 75, my lungs may take a little more microplastics and all that. But are your lungs for the next 70, 80 years going to be able to take all the pollution that is there? Secondly, youth are able to take risks. They are also they come forward with very innovative ideas. So I think that youth have a very strong role to play, and sometimes I'm envious of them because if you see any of the UN conferences or anything, it'll be that if you are below the age of 30, you can apply. Or if you're below the age of 25, you can apply. I'm so glad that this is happening. I mean, it's an honor for me to see these youngsters stand up there and with so much commitment and with so much understanding talk about climate change. Coming back to what Kartik Bhai was saying about students, about children, I think that children should be taught sustainable living habits from a young age, and they can understand the science behind that at a later stage. But from a young age, they should be taught to shut off lights, some things as simple as that, or don't waste water, and later they can understand why they are doing so. But this lifestyle changes must be there as they grow up right from the very beginning.
Thank you. So, coming to another side of this, back in 2018, we had the same theme for World Environment Day, beat plastic pollution. And I think that year, Earth Day also had a similar theme, end plastic
Yes,
pollution. So,
absolutely.
between 2018 and 2025, how much progress have we made? I know our Prime Minister had declared a very ambitious single-use plastic free policy back in 2022. How much have we progressed, and why did the need come for uh, the plastic pollution to be repeated as a theme? I don't know if it has happened before, but it's very interesting. I got this question asked to me today morning at an event in my hometown. So yeah, perhaps we can discuss this a little bit.
So I think that there has been tremendous progress, both in policies. Maybe implementation has lagged behind a little bit, but implementation has lacked because we are not able to offer affordable alternatives. If we are able to offer affordable alternatives, people, why we are not suicidal as a race? Why would we choose plastics when we now know that they can't be degraded, that they break out into these microplastics, they're going to enter our bodies, they are into our food chain? Why would we do so? I think people only do so because we don't offer affordable alternatives. So we have to Earth Day Network, what we have been doing is we have been recognizing religious sites that have gone plastic free. And we've recognized so far 12 religious sites. Why did we do so? We've done them because a lot of religious sites used to use plastic. Take the Golden Temple. Most of the grain and everything used to come in plastic bags there. Second is that once they make a stand, then their devotees also follow them. So whether it is Tirupati, Golden Temple, Badrinath, so you were the first, in fact, Rituraj, to do it in Assam for us.
Yeah.
Remember, that was the first time we did it. And we've, awarded these sites, and there are about 129 million pilgrims that come to these. So you can imagine the communication that is going through. So I think a lot has been done. We have set up recycling units. The government of India has a policy which I don't somehow, it hasn't filtered down to the cement factories and all, but 25% of the fuel that you use in large burners is supposed to come from shredded plastic, because plastic has a calorific value of 4 times that of coal. But many people are not, there is a government regulation on this, it's not being followed. Kashmir, all the wildlife sanctuaries are plastic free. But now what do we have to do? We have to make the villages around, these wildlife sanctuaries also plastic free. So what happens there? If we give them alternatives, they will go plastic free. So that is where I think that government needs to step in to handhold maybe women's groups to develop things like salpatta and others, maybe clay pots. We tried it in Calcutta. We went to the Mishti Dukans and we said that why don't you give your rasgullas and all in the old bhars, doing the clay things. And they told us that it is difficult to match the rate that we pay for a plastic bag or a plastic container. So here is where the government needs to step in and understand that although they have excellent policies, why are these not being implemented at the rate that they should be implemented?
Thank
So
you.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm positive. I'm positive. Things are happening.
I think that was a
And
great answer, and we have so much to learn. Karthik, so please, would you like to comment on that
yeah,
same question?
yeah. So I basically will echo Karuna's ji's point that I think a lot of progress has been made globally. If you remember, if you take the 2015 and the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, plastic was not recognized such a big issue, and therefore the SDGs per se, I mean, it's implied, but it's not like highlighted. So since then, I think since 18, as you say, there's a lot of change which has happened. Today, it is recognized, and one of the reasons why this theme is repeated for World Environment Day several times is because of its importance, which is there. Now, one thing is that setting up what are called MRFs, materials recycling facilities. Um, CEE itself has been uh, possible through CSR funding to be able to set up such a facility. And Ruturaj, for your information, we have set up two in Guwahati. There are two in Guwahati, but each of them handle about 5 tons per day, 5 tons of plastic per day, and they give employment to so many people. So again, you're not only talking about something which needs subsidy, it needs subsidy today for setting it up. It doesn't pay to set up, but once you help set it up, then whoever the entrepreneur runs it can run it. So, and with after MRS, we just set up one in Noida just last week. And it's wonderful to see these people, see it. And we are trying to take school children to see them. So they need to know that, okay, we segregated, so what? If they know that after segregating waste, it goes into something and see how people are handling it, then they will be a little more careful about it and there is a value to it. The other one after that is the material recycling, MRCs, material recycling centers, where you take these plastics, as you know, have a number behind them. Every plastic, there's 1 to 7 numbers, and you separate the different types of plastic, and so that they can then go into making chips from them and do it. Some plastics are more easy to recycle than others. And there are some technological problems. For instance, the water bottle which you buy, the plastic which is used to make the bottle and the plastic used for the cap, for the ducken, is different today. So when you want to recycle it, you have to take the ducken out and put it in one bag and this one in another at the MRS. In America, that's no longer the case. They have managed to produce the same material for both. So this is a little technology. In another year that will happen in India because we are trying to find out. Now, one of the global things is if technology transfer were to happen much faster, we don't have to wait for that year. Someone knows about how to do it, but they don't tell us or they charge such a big price for it. So we have to do our own research and we will come to it. I'm not saying we won't. But other countries might find it even more difficult to come to it. India, of course, has such a big scientific base that we can do it. So, how do we cooperate in that thing? Now, in order to cooperate on this, the first time now there is a global plastic convention under discussion. Not signed yet. They've had that first meeting, which was a very big meeting. They're having another one this year. But we are trying to go towards a convention. Now, you know, there's a convention on climate change, there's biodiversity and others. This will be one on plastics. Not that the conventions are always the answer, because many people are very skeptical about conventions. They themselves have a big footprint. And after a lot of talk, they're still talking about very small linguistic details when the world is sort of collapsing outside. But all the same, this is a requirement if you want to work globally. So a convention is happening. India itself is taking global initiatives. I told you Mission Life is something which Indian government is trying to grow globally. It's not only for India. The solar mission, which the Prime Minister of India with Narendra Modi ji with the Prime Minister of France, with Mitterrand, they launched. That is a global initiative to get more people to convert. So not whatever our experiences, we can share. Our own innovations today, there are many other materials. Bamboo, for instance, you can use to make those bags. And again, for the Northeast, it should be a huge possibility of taking bamboo fiber and making bags rather than plastic bags. You can take it, Karunaji already mentioned about cogeneration, and it is going into making electricity. Is not the best use of it, but at least is one use. Or making cement. You can put it in roads, and many places there are laws that please put it in roads. There's a technique by which you mix it in bitumen, and so that the road becomes a little better to be able to take water. As you know, tar roads are not very good for water. They break, but with the plastic in it, they are able to do it. So this is there. Now, all of this will again create problems of leaching of plastic and the microplastic. So we have not even yet fully grappled, even our laws have not really grappled with microplastic. For instance, drinking water from plastic jars, or even buying so many other products in plastic bottles. Is it something which is viable? I think probably not. The initial evidence suggests that looking at microplastics, we will not be, and it will not be too far a day while we will say that all liquids should not be packaged in plastic because of the problem of microplastic getting into that thing. That's not happened yet. So we are learning more as we go, but there is a curve. We would obviously, everyone wants to see things happen much faster, and let this be the last World Environment Day, which has the theme plastic pollution, ending plastic pollution. But that's not going to happen. There will be more World Environment Days, which still will be end plastic pollution, at least for a little while, before we are really able to overcome this problem.
Well, yeah, I hope we do find a solution, or at least a way of turning plastic waste to plastic wealth, and probably that will propel the change that is required. And we had a lot of questions come in earlier. Some of them have joined, but before I go to those audience questions, I'll come back to Karuna ma'am regarding the inclusion, the campaign for inclusion of climate education in the NDCs. I know you have been working globally. I think it was in COP29 Baku, where I accompanied you to some of the pavilions, country pavilions, to
Thank
discuss
you.
the matter. How's the progress? Just curious to know.
The progress has been good. Just to go back to it, that earthday.org has been campaigning very strongly that countries should include mandated climate education in their NDCs. Once it is included in your NDCs, it is easier for it to filter down and for academic institutions to follow that. Glad to report that from the Asia Pacific region, 18 countries have already included it in their NDCs. And what we say is that don't lose out in the race for for livelihoods and all, because skill development is going to come up, and you have to have an educated population to do it. You can't suddenly bring out your children at a stage and then say, now get skilled and now try for the jobs. They won't be ready for them. So that is something very important in our region, where we do have populations that need to better their livelihoods a lot. So I'm glad to say that the World Bank also has supported this, and the World Bank has come out with by saying that if countries take this, if they include climate education in their NDCs, we will help in the implementation if required by some countries. Another good thing I would like to report is that for Viksat Bharat, one of our colleagues was there amongst the other youth, and the youth presented before the Prime Minister. The Environment Minister was also there, that what is it that youth want, and youth wanted the inclusion of climate education in NDCs. So we are very proud of that, very happy about it. I do understand that it takes governments a little time to announce it, because they want to work out all the pros and cons and how to implement it. But I am very hopeful that India would be including climate education in their updated 3.0 NDC. So We have small island states that have done it. You know how vulnerable they are. Maldives has done it. Nepal has just included it. So the more countries that could include it, it would benefit them and benefit all of us in the long run.
Oh, that's great to hear so much progress has been made, ma'am. We have a question from Mr. Anjan Sharma for Kartikeya, sir. This is about what we have been hearing about uh, technologies to take out plastics, especially plastic eating bacteria for some years. Can you elaborate on that? I got the
Yeah, so
question on WhatsApp. Yeah.
right, thanks. Uh, no, there is really a lot of innovation out there. Plastic eating bacteria is one, but more important perhaps is also um, replacing plastic in the first place with other materials. And I think the innovation in materials which can be used, as was said earlier, that in some cases the price point is still maybe a little higher, or it might be a little more cumbersome to know where it is, but it is happening. And I think this replacement needs to happen. The plastic eating bacteria is in a sense a choice, assuming that you're first of all going to use plastic, secondly you're going to throw it in the wrong place, and then to overcome that you will need the plastic eating bacteria, and god knows what those bacteria will do afterwards, because a lot of places where we've tried these um, 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 what's to say, one species trying to overcome another one, it requires good research. So it is a very good idea, the plastic video, but I think we should look at it more broadly and look at the replacing plastic option of several products where we don't have to put the plastic there in the first place. Today, what we are doing is that what is the best way of ending plastic? Now, one way of recycling is in such a way that it replaces fresh plastic being made. So wherever plastic is required, it is made from plastic which is already there. So that the total production of plastic has to start going down. That's not happening yet. Right. So even if we are recycling it, we are still putting more and more plastic out there. And 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 ultimately that Isab doesn't match. That okay, you are recycling it, making it, but how come the plastic manufacturing figures are not going down? So these have to start going down, then you know that you are successful. Now they can go down, but people still using plastic but made from recycled plastic material where you have to use it. So this is something which we can look at. There is a question which Mr. Ghoshal has put up. It's gone now. It was a best practices. Am I right?
It is there in the chat. What are some global best practices in climate education that India can adapt, and what can the world learn from India's experience?
Right. So there are several things here which are best practices which India has already done, which people are adopting. I told you about one which is purely Indian, which is the handprint. That you start positive action right at the school level. It's an Indian concept. It's gone abroad, and people are using it. One interesting thing, we were making this science train, the Science Express biodiversity, to create a lot of widespread awareness of putting an exhibition in a train. And the problem was, how do you tell people that 1.5 degrees Celsius is going to make all that difference? Because from morning till afternoon, my temperature has changed more than 1.5 degrees. From summer to winter, it's changed even more. So, how do I think that this small thing is going to make all this difference when I'm used to this? So, what we did with school children was we asked school children, okay, how many of you have had a fever? And of course, everyone raises their hand. Then we said, what was the temperature which went up? Usually it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit or something, which is similar to 1.5 degrees Celsius. You will not be able to go to school. If you had if you can, if it's hot outside or cold outside, you can still wear a jacket or something else and go out. But if you have fever, it doesn't. So the difference between a systemic temperature change as opposed to localized outside external change is the way we explain to people how a 1.5 degrees, that I've found that a very effective way for children to learn how a small change in temperature makes a system dysfunctional is to know that for a small change in my bodily temperature makes me dysfunctional and make me lie down. So that's one example of something which we developed in India, but now a lot of people are using that to do that. The movement of globally, people are sharing good practices and what we can do. One of the things Karunaji mentioned right at the top, that we have to be careful how much gloom and doom we put in. If we don't put it at all and make everything is rosy, people don't feel okay. If you put too much, people get depressed and stop acting. And in some countries, you even had suicides because children have got so depressed. So it is very important to keep that balance right. So that's one. And the last one I'm going to tell you is that for a country like India, we can do so much for mitigation. But the point is that our per capita consumptions of a lot of things are already pretty low. I can't go and tell a villager. So in 2009, I think the campaign of the World Environment Day was kick the habit. Climate change, kick the habit. So I went there and I said, how do I go to a villager who has no electric bulb, is really living a very simple habit, doesn't use a car or something else, and I say, kick the habit. He says, sir, should I first form the habit and then kick it, or what should I do? Because I don't have the habit today. Huh? I'm not wasting fuel. I'm living a very simple life, maybe because of whatever poverty and other reasons, but I'm living a life which is okay. So in India, we changed the word K to P and we made it pick right. We said climate change, pick right. For us, it's not kicking a habit, but picking the right things first now. Pick right. And therefore making the right technological decision. We don't have to first all become obese by eating too much sugary drinks and then figure out what to do. Today, we are not so dependent on these drinks, except in maybe big urban centers. We can do it. We still have a large part of India which knows that it should eat in season. But there are countries in which the whole concept of season has disappeared. So you put everything into a fridge to keep it there, and you are the footprint of that has become very large. So in India, can we leapfrog the current wasteful model of development? Can we leapfrog that model and go into straight where we look from our parampara, as you rightly said, there are traditions which we have, put them into modern contexts, and actually uh, define what the development will mean for us, so that Viksit Bharat, what is it going to look like? If Viksit Bharat looks like, say, New York, then the world has collapsed by that time. Even if you had a wand, Karuna had a wand which will say, "Whoosh," and it becomes Viksit Bharat like New York. By tomorrow, it will collapse. In Ahmedabad, if everyone had a car, you couldn't move from one place to another. I mean, how many flyovers can we make? And it won't work. So we have to move to a different paradigm. And that paradigm is where the youth come in. All the young people here have to redefine what will we mean by a developed country. Yes, we mean we have good standard of living, we mean that we have entertainment, we mean we have food, we mean we can travel, but we will not be wasteful in this way. And therefore, it's an exciting time also for India, because it's a time of search. It's a time of finding something new. It's not only a time of kicking the habit, because we don't luckily have all those habits today.
Right. So it is a time of serious introspection into in policy decisions as well as personal choices. I guess it's interesting time because everybody is becoming aware of the environmental footprints, and people hopefully are starting to make informed decisions. We have a few questions on the chat. Aniket Basu asks, as both of you are founders with so many decades of experience, what keeps you motivated to still keep fighting climate change? Maybe Karuna ma'am, and very briefly, Kartikeya sir could answer. I know it's going to be a one-liner.
So I think what keeps my colleagues and me motivated is me meeting those fantastic people who sometimes single-handedly are doing so much for the environment. I'm talking of people like Jadev Pine, who Rituraj knows so well. What a remarkable man he is. He has single-handedly reforested a whole island, and not for the benefit of himself, but for the benefit of others. I get motivated by some of the villages that have adopted green, initiatives. Like there is a village in Rajasthan, where on the birth of every girl child, 111 trees are planted. I am motivated by women's groups who are doing their bit for the environment. In fact, every month we recognize one of these groups who do something good for the environment and earn from it as well. Because I seriously feel that we should not run away from the fact that earning is important, livelihood is important. All those moralistic values that do it for the good of the environment and all are there. But people need money. They need reality. Like Kartik Bhai, I had gone to a villager in Odisha, and I was talking about environmental things, and he told me, he said, environmental concerns are the luxury of the rich. I think of 2 square meals if I can get it, and the water I get, I am not so concerned about how polluted it is, but do I get the water? So we have to be realistic in our approaches to people. We need to look into their problems. We need to see what is it that they need for their basic needs, and not run away from the fact that you can earn by doing green deeds also. So that's what I seriously think. Like when we encourage people to plant fruit trees, we tell them that from the harvest of the fruit, you will benefit two ways. One is that the nutrition of your family will go up, and second is you can sell the excess harvest and earn some money. So, that is how we are encouraging people who are less privileged. Like we had this area in Lalitpur where we planted. We encourage them to do this. Now, if I told them that plant some rose trees, it will look very pretty here, but it will increase the green canopy, that will not work. So let's be realistic in our approaches to how we get people motivated to work with. And believe me, across India, it is amazing how many people are doing such excellent work. We just need to thank them and learn from their examples and wonder, are these human beings or who are they that do so much for somebody else, not for themselves?
Well, thank you, Karuna ma'am. The same question maybe quickly to Kartikeya sir. We also have two other questions on the chat. If you could see them and maybe address those as well.
Me quickly to just say that I started by interest in development. Actually, environment came quite accidentally into that picture, but it started with the interest in development. I was working in the slum areas of Bombay, in Dharavi and others, and was really working on that area. And then as one went, one realized that if one works on environment as one strategy and really mixes it with development, mixes it with livelihoods, as she says, and that's what we are doing. So it's not this or that. It's not to say that if you are careful, you will not. I mean, the poor person who accepts bad water and then falls sick and loses so many working days has to recognize that that sip was not enough. That sip was a disaster actually. If I'm missing 5 days of work, if I'm a daily wager. So I think sense, and I think that's the sort of general way we are doing it.
Thank you. So we are running out of time. Perhaps we could combine the two questions we have on the chat. What temperature is rising at some point, the wet bulb temperature will exceed the survival limit in many parts of India. What should the government and people do to prevent such catastrophe, and how do we create mass awareness about climate crisis that can lead to action and change in policy to save people? That is from Somitra. And then from Mr. Ghosal, we have what specific policy or institutional reform do you believe are essential for making climate education a national policy in coming years? Then we also have another question from Padmaja down there. With ongoing development projects, especially in the context of India, how do we create resilience in the frontline communities, considering issues of vulnerability to plastic pollution and its repercussions in overall health, both physical and mental? Due to the paucity of time, I would request our esteemed panelists to choose which question to answer. Perhaps start with Kartikeya, sir.
Um, there are lots of questions here which need thought, and I think that's good because that's where we are going. I think in terms of policies, there are a lot of contradictory things which sometimes policies do. So we do good policies, but when we go into a village and say, why don't you change to this fertilizer? They're saying, but we are getting a subsidy on a chemical which is not good. So how can we believe you? Now there are places like, for instance, Sikkim, uh, uh, which have tried to make themselves an area which is chemical free, organic. Now it is possible to do it in that one state, and that's fantastic. So I think examples, I would say, are very good. That if you can scale up things and have examples where people can actually see, what we do is we work on certain villages and we take other villages to go and learn from other villages, not from people who come from cities. They go and see a good example. So I think seeing good examples is, I think, a very good way. And as Karunaji said, there are wonderful examples in this country. So if we can get people to go and actually see these examples, school children, villagers, community people, housewives, people just go and see things which are happening. That will, just like you ask, how are we excited? They will all be excited when they see these things. That all this is possible. Thank you.
Karuna ma'am, your thoughts on maybe the second one, what specific policy or institutional reforms do you believe are essential for making climate education a national priority in the coming years from Mr. Gosal?
So I really think, as I had spoken earlier, that we should have mandated climate education. That is very important. So that is a policy that should come about. At the moment, only two states in India, Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, have climate education in their curriculum, but other states should come in with it. That said, I think that just policies is not enough. We really have to go down to the grassroots level and look for implementation. In this regard, I think that we've been working a lot with the Panchayat women leaders. There are over 1.4 million Panchayat women leaders in our country, and they have a mandate for governance, which includes at least half of it is related to the environment. So what we've been doing is we have been going to these Panchayat women leaders. We explain things like modern jargons like what is the rain cycle, the water cycle, what are greenhouse gases, what is global warming, and then we connect them to already existing funding possibilities. See, that's where the disconnect is. Everything is available, but things are not connected. So I don't think we need more policies. I think we need people to come and benefit from them. So the network has also brought out a lot of books, as Karthik Bhai had mentioned. They're all on the net, all free to use. Each one gives you different examples of how people have helped to better the environment. And what is very nice is that each one has, whether it's an or a Wipro story or whatever, each one has the confirmation given over there. So you can go and replicate that. Because again, I don't think that we need to reinvent the wheel. There is already enough that is happening. All we need to do is see how we can replicate these.
May I just comment
Yes,
as a
please.
follow-up to that, my questions? Actually, why we are feeling importance to the policies is that actually, like there should be the demonstrative evidence of what we can do, what we cannot do. Fine, but having said this, these policies are important in the sense, supposing we want to go for the single-use plastic, say, as Mr. Karthik was talking about, that even the lid of the bottle and the bottle itself should be of the same grade of plastic, so the recyclability can be ensured. So, and another is the ostensive knowledge regarding the climate different success stories, like the people are going and seeing the things, and this kind of education system, if it is brought in the mainstream, naturally this will be much more instrumental in changing the people's mindset. So I really this your thought process has enlightened me, because I have recently only I've seen in the Leh that how Sonam Wangchuk has made this the HEL and this the SQL, that those institute where people are doing, even the poor people are doing, not that they are climate fully educated about the climate, but they are doing it out of their ostensive knowledge. I think as a policy from, if it brought in the education system, this will be really be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Gosal, for your input. We have slightly short beyond our designated time of 1 hour, but we have a question here. Perhaps Kartikeya sir would like to take Padmaga's question about frontline communities' vulnerabilities to plastic pollutions and the implications for their physical and mental health.
This question of communities which have a front line who are giving us services and whose own health and things are not looked after by us is a very big problem actually in India. In the case of the material recycling facilities, for instance, which we are involved in, they will wear gloves, for instance, when they do it, or they might have to wear masks when they do it. You have the problem in even in traditional things. I mean, the salt workers in Kutch, now they stand in the water without shoes, and all their feet become really problematic. You have people working near chemical factories, and they are this is a disaster. You have people, agriculturists, who are given chemicals not with the full understanding of what that chemical is going to do and the negative impact it has. It is shortening lives. It is doing something. So I think it's a huge question, and I think for those who have got the privilege of having some education and can help, I think we have to do it. Is otherwise we are the vulnerable communities. I mean, I'm talking about people who are directly working in it. Vulnerable communities also mean people who are to live in slums. They're talking about people who don't have water. They have no choice except it. Um, but I think this is a large question, and I think it's a very important thing to highlight here. I'm glad it was highlighted, but I think that, and also on the adaptation side, when we talk about climate change, most people think of mitigation, while in India we have to do a lot on adaptation, and because whatever these communities do, they are not responsible for this climate thing, and they will be the most affected by that. So adaptation measures for them when things happen. Here we are doing, for instance, just now, projects of making roofs white. There's a heat action plan for all our cities, and we are trying to work on it. We are just painting them white. It might make a few degrees difference, but that's better than not doing it. The tree plantation has already been talked about. So there are many simple and some more complex things which have to be done for communities. And there are lots of vulnerable people in this country.
Thank you for answering that. Perhaps we have run out of time, but there's a very quick follow-up that, if I may ask, about loss and damage. Uh, our frontline communities, as in indigenous people at the front lines of climate change, especially in the Eastern Himalayan region, how do we bring them to the conversation about climate justice and ensure that they are in the book of accounts for the loss and damage funds?
Ah, that's that's a that's a big question. Um, you see, the loss and damage, as Rituraj, you know, at the last COP meeting, it was finally now even being accepted that loss and damage is valid, and we'll give some resources. All the money which has been promised, first of all, there's huge grudgingly people are giving money or promising money. What they've promised, they've not given. They get entangled in their own problems. You have the biggest, richest country in the world, which is saying, sorry, we don't even believe in it. And we are withdrawing our support for the climate treaty. So how do you do it? And I think while at the global level of fighting, we have to keep on fighting for loss and damage and refunds of this. Let us be frank that that is not going to be our solution. We will have to do it ourselves. We will have to fight for it ourselves, and we will have to find solutions. If all those things which people own, all the damage which has been done over the past over several years, decades, centuries, can be made up, nothing like it. But the current world, the way the world is, where everyone is thinking more and more of themselves, you don't have global statementships like you had earlier. People are talking about the mega type of thinking, me for myself and you for yourself. It is a difficult time. And I think so. So there is a complete difference between what we should negotiate and what we should do within our country. And I think today's workshop has been more about what we should do ourselves, what school children should do, and others. If we spend all our energies in trying to get that, let the diplomats, India has very smart diplomats, and let them also try for loss and damage and everything else. But let us look at our own resources, which are not small, and let us see what we can do as a country. There are parts, as you say, like the Northeast, which require more support in certain areas. Let us give it. Let us give it. You have, on the whole, a positive action. I think the whole thing about the duties and rights is being played here. I think in India we don't think of rights without duties, and that's the beauty of India. We the constitution talks about rights, but it also equally talks about duties. In India, for every school children, every textbook, whether you like it or not, has got it printed on the first back cover or the front cover. What are the rights and duties? Not that you can understand it because it's written in all languages, but it's still printed there. We are trying to print some of that, bring it into the school thing. But in India, what can we do? And of course, we should demand, and what we should do, what should, of course, our Northeast state, which feels that the resources are not adequate, has to demand in Delhi, has to demand elsewhere, or what it should do. But I think let us reality check is that India will have to do a large part of itself, what it does, and not wait for this thing. We are the fastest growing large economy today. Hopefully, we have just become now number four or something. We'll become number three, crossing Germany in another few years. And I think that's the solution. It's a solution to a lot of things that if we just wait for someone to dole us out, it's not happening. And you know how it is, even education, to bring it into this thing. When you go and mention education in COP, they say, I think it's in that zone, maybe in the green zone. I think there's a workshop in the green zone you should go to. You go there, you meet all your friends because they are all there. They are all equally talking to each other because the main people are not talking to you. They are not inviting you to the main hall to say something. So the reality, environment is at the fringe, climate change is there, and then education is in the fringe of the fringe. So what we have to do is really fight. And that's how, when the Center for Environmental Education came up, we had to do a lot of convincing to say that if India wants to transform itself, If India wants to make a completely different thing, unless you make education one of the strong pillars of the environment policy, it will not happen. And which is why it was listened to. A center of excellence was set up with that support. We are fortunate, and all of us have been there working together to really create awareness. And with that awareness, I think we can transform. And that's the positive note. So let's stick to that main one. And at another forum, I think we can discuss how we should approach COP and how we should do something on the diplomatic front.
May I
Right.
just ask you one question, just one question,
Yes.
because it was really enlightening. That shouldn't we prioritize on the grooming the climate leadership? I mean, amongst the youngster, in the sense, the spiritual people should come into the picture so that actually we should be able to approximate the ideals of good life in our individual life, in the life of the community where we belong. Because ultimately, it is the pollution of the human being's mind that is really creating the biggest problem in this world. Think about the so many wars that are happening. It's the educated people, they are doing it. So I need some kind of spiritual leadership. If it is groomed in this society, I think that can be the sine qua non for our society's welfare as a whole. What is your
So,
take on this
no,
issue?
so this new curriculum
Mm.
has at the ninth grade, that is to at about 15-year-olds, they are having a special subject, 2 hours every day on ethics. And in that, we are trying to bring in things like uh, the Earth Charter, which is a spiritual document in some ways. It's a spiritual document telling what are the ethics we need for a sustainable planet. It's not just being selfish, but what are the ethics? Our own prime minister and the country talking about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. That is, the earth is one family. Now, these are the values which we are trying. Many of the religious leaders and preachers, we have Mr. Murari Bapu here in Gujarat, who's got a huge following. We've been talking to him. He actually invited me to come and talk to him. He said, just tell us, and other people also, just tell us what are the messages, how do we do it? How do we mix the messages through our spiritual thing? So all these people have a huge following, credibility, and you are absolutely right that if we can get them to make it part of our thing. I mean, many things which we do today are actually environmental things, but we made them into ritual. If people say, "Why are you doing this?" You say, "It was ritualistically. I'm doing this. It's good for. I'm doing it as a prayer." But actually, you can think about it. It's actually something which is an environmental thing. But this was one way of getting compliance. So, so I think there's a lot to be said about this, and I think we have to work together with spiritual leaders in all faiths.
And just to add
Ritika?
to what you said, Kartikeya sir, in the Northeast, in all the communities, we have such kind of, beliefs like the spirit of the forest. And then we also believe that it is wrong to eat a certain fruit or a food beyond a certain period of time. And these are
Exactly.
all connected to sustainability and to environmental reasons. And all,
Exactly.
these also, go back to what the Karuna madam was trying earlier. And when I was doing this, implementing her agenda, Earth Day Asia's agenda in Kamakya Temple in Guwahati. So yeah, I think that's
Thank
a
you.
very, very
Rituraj,
positive note.
may I
Yes,
just
Karuna ma'am.
add one thing?
Uh,
Yes, please.
I completely agree with Mr. Ghoshal because if you look at any religion, it is reverence to nature. That is the first tenement of that religion. Humans think that now we have become lords. Of course, COVID taught us that we can't do it. So, what Earth Day Network has done is that we have gone to religious leaders and we've asked them to give us sayings from their religion which are related to reverence for nature. We've compiled this together. It's a book which is online. You can take a look at it and see. And we've asked all these religious leaders that when they give their sermons, when they preach, to take people back to these sayings that are there. Even in Islam, there is a saying, अगर तुमको मालूम हो कि कल दुनिया फना हो जाएगी फिर भी पौधा लगाओ. I'm a Sikh. We have Pavat Guru Pani Pita Mata Dharat Mahat. The Gayatri mantra is there. Buddhists think that you are as good as the environment around you. So keep the environment around you good and you will be good. So I'd be happy to send you the link if you can't find it, because we really think that religious leaders have a very strong role to play in preserving our environment. And that can only be done by showing people that it is in our scriptures. So, go back to it.
So well said. Thank you, Madam Karuna, for your wonderful perspective.
Well, I think this has been a very, very stimulating conversation, and thank you, Mr. Gosal, for bringing up this spiritual angle. To finish with that, I think has been very, very correct, and it kind of summarizes all that is wrong, and also gives us the correct pathways, which each of us individually and collectively could actually progress on, when we want to change ourselves to change the world. So thank you very much, Kartikeya sir and Karuna ma'am, for coming on to speak in this webinar. This recording will, of course, be edited and it will go out to our viewers on YouTube. And I'm sure everybody will be enriched by the fantastic conversation we have had today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the viewers. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.